Good morning and welcome to Nittany Noll. My name is Scot Chambers. I'm a longtime resident of this area as well as a member of ClearWater Conservancy, and we're here today to introduce you to one of our most recent easements. It's called the Nittany Noll. It's just south of Pleasant Gap above it. There's an incredible amount of acreage here. Where we are right now is part of an area that at one point had been an airstrip that is now being put back into some other habitat. As you can see, extends all the way down through here. I'm familiar with this property because decades ago I used to come up here as a young man with my friends when this was under private ownership. And at that point, this was all very heavily wooded. Since then, a gentleman bought this property, he and his family, and he was a pilot. During that time, he created this little airstrip because for his own personal use. He is no longer with us. The land is transferred over and this easement was put in place. But as I said, this gives us a wonderful opportunity to look at some habitat restoration. In times that I've come up here in the past, recently, we've seen deer, turkey, coyote, a vast array of songbirds and so on here. We also see behind me a fenced-in area, and one of the things that happened just prior to the transfer of this property was there was a rather large logging operation that came in and harvested the timber here. They used pretty good technique, but it did have an impact on the area. When we were asked to, as ClearWater asked to develop an easement here, we looked at this as an opportunity for even further habitat restoration and looking at how the Pennsylvania forests are changing due to climate change and other factors. And one of the projects that is going on up here, this is a Cerulean Warbler habitat restoration project. The Cerulean Warbler is very beautiful. And so when this property came to our attention, it was a natural fit to sort of take part of it that had been logged and see if we can encourage the habitat to come back to something that's a little more favorable for the Cerulean Warbler. This is just in the infancy part of the project, so we don't know yet how successful it has been. This is a great place. As you'll see, there's an incredible array of territory and habitats here. There's quite an array of various types of plant life here, including, unfortunately, a pretty strong population of invasives. So this is a really unique property that I think you'll enjoy getting to know. And we are going to head up the mountain to some of the other parts of it that I think you'll find at times even breathtaking. As we go up the mountain here, you can see, oh, there's a number of tiger swallowtails immediately to your right. I don't know if you can catch them or not. They're dancing away for us. It's a wonderful area, but this area also has got an interesting mixture of this property that is technically owned by Graymont, where the ClearWater easement is. There's a lot of state forest to one side, but there's also various spatterings of private property here. This area is open to hunting with permission from Graymont. The private properties, one of which we are right on the border of, also hunts up here. So anybody who does choose to come up here needs to be aware of the guidelines and regulations related to hunting. Even if you're coming up just for a hike or to do some birding or whatever it may be, you may find yourself exposed to hunters, and that's perfectly legal. You should be aware of the seasons, wear the appropriate orange at the appropriate times, and be considerate of all people that use this land. shift for a moment here just to give you a little more insight on the landing where we've stopped. If you look off to my left here, you can see sort of an opening through the woods. That used to be the trail going along the top of the ridge. Really neat walk that in a year and a half now, maybe 2 years, has become completely overgrown with raspberries, multiflora roses, and other plants that make that now impassable. Just to give you an idea of how quickly the forest will take over its own land. Well, welcome back. We are taking another quick stop up here at the top of the ridge on the Nittany Noll easement. Behind me to the left, or to my right, your left, is the Nittany Valley down to Bellefonte, Pleasant Gap. If you can see the mountains in the distance, that's up near Snowshoe and Julian. We'll get a better view of that as we move down the ridge here. This current location is actually one of the major staging areas that was in use a few years ago when the timbering operation took place. As we scan around here with the camera, you can begin to see some of the process of the forest changing its habitat. You will see a lot of white in the Multiflora Rose, one of the invasive species up here, and there are many other species. But it's an interesting spot, a little change from the forest setting that we will see throughout this property and along the ridge here. Just wanted to give you a brief idea, giving you a little bit of a point of reference. As I said, this is right up on top of the ridge, and we'll now move down towards the most spectacular aspect of this property, in my opinion, and that is the overlook. So let's move on down to a better spot. Well, we've now reached my favorite spot in all of the Nittany Noll. We affectionately call this Big Rock. It has had this name for decades. I came up here in my early 20s, which you can tell by the color of my hair was a while ago, and had some wonderful camping experiences here. As we walk out, you'll begin to get a feel for the incredible view from up here that looks out over the Nittany Valley, and you can see all the way over to the Bald Eagle Ridge and beyond. So let's go check this out. It's a great little spot. For better or worse, we have seen that it is still used by some. As we come into this clearing here, you can see that somebody has built a very nice and maintained fireplace. Although we are not encouraging that behavior, this is intended as an area where you may hike through, but people really should not be planning on staying for long periods of time here. As we said, this is owned by company, and they do not want people making this a regular destination for camping trips or anything like that. But as you can see, as we move forward here, we come out to the view. Very different sort of habitat up here. This is more of the forest as it has been for decades. Some wonderful old trees, new growth. And then as we come out here, we begin to see why this is turning out to be a good spot for birding, especially in terms of raptors and larger birds. The geomorphology of this area is such that and the topography of this area is such that it catches many of the winds coming up from the valley, and there's a great lift. When I've been out here over various times, of course, there have been many vultures, a broad array of hawks. We have seen golden eagles, we've seen bald eagles, we've seen great blue herons, and just a wonderful birding spot. So let's take a little closer look at our valley here. And now I am standing on what would be called the Big Rock. It's actually a cluster of rocks and outcropping with an incredible view behind us. Better watch where I'm stepping, of the Nittany Valley. And if you look, yes, it is a hazy day, a nice humid day in early June in central PA, but you can still see in the distance the Bald Eagle mountain range, and beyond that, the next ridge, you're getting up onto the plateau there. You're getting up to Snowshoe and beyond. If you look very closely, there's an incredible house on the Bald Eagle Ridge over there. I bet his views are spectacular. But some of the other landmarks in front of us, we have Pleasant Gap immediately below me. To the left here, you may be able to see the old Rockview Compound, and then a little bit to its right is the newest Rockview Compound. They owned an incredible expanse of land across the valley here, and Rockview at one point was a significant provider for foods for the Pennsylvania penal system, ranging from meat to dairy to produce to vegetables and fruits of all kinds, wheat, and that swath extends. You may be able to see a roadway running through there. That's Route 99. One of the other things that immediately jumps out to you is this sort of tan building about halfway across the valley. That is a senior living structure. It is, I'm sure, offering their tenants an incredible view across the valley as well. And then as we pan to my right here, we have, you may be able to see CPI, one of the Votech type schools in the area, but just really an incredible view. If you look all the way over here to the left, you can actually begin to see Penn State and Beaver Stadium and some of the water towers. At the moment, we don't have very many visitors, but as I said, quite often you can be out here and in very little time you'll have a number of large birds flying by, raptors, and also a rather vast array of songbirds in the environment around us. In the future, we will be hopefully having some opportunities for the public to come up and during migratory seasons and see what kind of traffic we have here with the raptors in particular as they move north and south throughout the year. But enjoy the view. It's really, as I said, to me, the highlight of the Nittany Noll easement. Well, thank you very much for coming along on our tour of the Nittany Noll. It's a great spot. You just got a little taste of it. Really wonderful area in many ways, and we hope that the appropriate time, so on, you can have the opportunity to take in this place and all the wonder that's here. It is a vast area that is great for exploring and enjoying. As we said, be mindful of the fact that this is open to hunting. You must always be aware of the laws and the rules in terms of that. And there are private properties around here. Be conscientious when you come up and take it, but it is an incredible place in central Pennsylvania where you can see a vast array of wildlife and birds and plants and see the process of forest cessation and changes that come around either through human activity, as we see with the airstrip and some of the timbering things, but also the process of nature retaking that land. So thank you once again for coming along, and I hope you have a wonderful day.